Hi, everyone in our wonderful Facebook community. My name is Ann Feldkamp, and I'm with Infobase. I'm here today with David Tarleton and Adria Dawn from Revealing Media Group.
Hey.
Hi to you both.
Thanks for having us today.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, likewise, we're really excited to chat today. Adria and David are producers that we've worked with for a good number of years, and they are producing so many great titles. We're going to talk about some of the titles they've created previously and we have available on our streaming services, but then also their new titles. So there's lots of exciting things that we're going to be discussing today. So with that being said, let's jump in. Before we kind of get into the content, could you tell us a little bit about your production company, Revealing Media Group?
Yeah, well, we wouldn't be here without our partners. So Revealing Media Group is made up of two different companies, Tarleton Dawn Productions,
which is us,
Tarleton Dawn, and then the Performers School, which is a training facility in Highwood, Illinois, that trains top-notch singers and actors and dancers. And our partners there are Stacy Plaster and Liz Fauntleroy. So we work with them together to have Revealing Media Group.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. So hi to Stacy and Liz if they're watching, and thank you. We appreciate your efforts as well in this all.
Really?
Yes. So you have an extensive history in filmmaking. Can you share with us a little bit on how you both got into becoming filmmakers?
Yeah, I'm going to toot David's horn, if that's okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll have my horn tooted.
David is like a filmmaker with a body of work. We actually met in Los Angeles years ago. He got his master's at USC, and I think I met you right after that.
Yeah.
And he's worked on everything from a series for the Muppets to series on streaming platforms, to trailers, to plays.
I've directed feature films and producer-directed television series and documentaries.
And on top of doing all of your filmmaking, he's also the head of the grad films programs at Columbia College Chicago. David Tarleton, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you. Gosh, thank you. All right, then all right. Thank you. All right, let me see if I can do the same for you. So Adria, so we met many years ago in Los Angeles. We're also married. I don't know if we mentioned that.
We have offspring.
We do. Who is our greatest production of all?
No, shucks.
The award-winning Hart Tarleton. But so we met in Los Angeles. Adria is probably best known for her work as an actor. She did several series with Ryan Murphy. She was on his first series called Popular for several seasons, and she was recurring on Nip Tuck. And you might have seen her recently on Chicago Med.
Yes.
So she's done a lot of that and also been a writer for many years. And in fact, we started out doing plays together, and then sort of segued into filmmaking and directing and producing
and teaching and all that. We like to wear a lot of hats, so that's what we do.
We are hat wearers.
Yeah.
You guys are such a lovely couple, and that story is amazing. I love how you just complimented each other, but it's that history of work is so fantastic, and I feel very honored that you have taken all of that experience and carved out a little time for education and created some really amazing resources for our teachers and students to use. So just to kind of turn it to your work in the education space, you've created a series and it's for tweens and teens. And so this is a series that is exposing lots of different topics. I mean, you guys really, you go from being a bystander to bullying, excluded, viral, the pressures that teens face, reaching out for help, and even some abuse issues with Blackout. What made you dive into the education space?
For me, I don't know. First of all, we're both teachers.
Right.
He teaches filmmaking and on-camera acting. We love education. But I think more importantly is this element of teaching about social change and how we can use the kids that we're working with today to make current, to make films about current topics and keep the topics really relevant. And so we hope with these films that these films will spark harder conversations in classrooms that are contemporary, that students can look at to as a source of help.
And I'd say one of the things that's always central to our work is, I think, empathy. It's really creating a sense of connection between the audience and the characters. And I think that when kids see these films, they see themselves in them. And I think it's really important to the work. We connect to the students that we're working with as actors, and I feel like they really help us ground our work in sort of current reality, like what's going on right now.
And the idea that these films are played in schools and educational institutions is great for us. Also, a big theme I think in these films is the idea of being okay with failure, making a mistake and learning how to come back from that. And there's so much pressure these days on kids to do everything, do it all, don't mess up, everything's on media, everything everybody can see, and to actually see somebody make a mistake and then apologize for it and get back to normalcy with it, I think is important. It's important for their growth.
And
wow.
Yeah.
No, go on.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, one of the things I think we've really discovered making these is things are different for kids now. Like the presence of social media and the public way that they're living their lives is so different than when we were kids. And I wouldn't say that we started out with this as an intention. It was more a sort of a discovery and an evolution of just how important that becomes to these stories for them to be contemporary and truthful.
Like with Excluded and Viral, the element of social media and how kids can use that as bullying in itself, creating fake accounts on media, or even something that they did in middle school is now going to blow up on the internet. These are things we just didn't have around. So I think exploring those with them and keeping current is important.
Yeah, you do definitely. The keeping current is definitely something, when I think of Revealing Media Group, is a great way I would describe your content to our teachers. The topics that you cover are definitely things that are in current conversations in school, and then the way that you approach it, it's very obvious that you're really in tune with today's youth. Whether it's from your child or being teachers yourselves, your approach. It really connects with teachers and with students. Let's talk about some of your films from this series, Kids Matter. So I kind of mentioned a few of them, and we've been kind of dropping some of their names. What has been one of your most memorable experiences in making these films? So whether or not it's Excluded is a short, well, maybe I'll let you guys, maybe you'll describe it better than I am, or I will. So Excluded is a unique film. Do you want to talk about that for a quick moment?
Yeah, Excluded follows a girl and her wanting to be involved in a popular group and sort of doing what she needs to do to be accepted by them, and then them turning on her and befriending her just to get a rise out of her and then just to hurt her. So as we know, not all kids are terrible, but there is a lot of you're my friend, you're not my friend in middle school and high school, and doing what needs to be done to maintain that status. So in Excluded, I think that's one of the major themes there.
And just the idea of staying true to yourself. What are the things that you're willing to sacrifice in order to try to be in the popular group? And is that okay?
Yeah.
Right? Is it okay to do things to your long-term friends because it's going to help you be popular with other kids? And sort of facing the consequences of that. So
yeah. And I think it's an interesting.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Adria.
No, go ahead.
I think it's an interesting look at how excluding, sorry, I'm having an allergy attack over here, how excluding is a form of bullying. Sometimes, we look at the bullying as the name calling and things like that, but to be seen as, excuse me. Oh, thanks. excuse me. But it was, I think, very eye-opening. And I know I myself, having led workshops, I've played this film specifically in many opportunities when I've been in schools, and teachers might say, you know, what do you have on bullying? Because I think that the perspective where a student might not ever feel that they're bullying because they're not name calling, they're not physically being abusive, they're not, you know, doing these outwardly things, but by the act of excluding kids, that is, you know, bullying. And so I thought that was a very interesting perspective. You know, there's a lot, bullying is obviously an important topic. And so there's been a lot of content created around that. And that's a very unique, unique way to approach that as well. So we don't have anything else on our sites for that. I'll just chip in here. If anyone is just joining us, my name is Ann Feldkamp and I'm with Infobase. We're interviewing today Adria John and David Tarleton, from Revealing Media Group. They're here talking about their films today from Kids Matter, which are geared at tweens and teens and the social issues that they face, as well as current topics that are existing in our environments, in our schools, and in the conversations that we have. So if you do have any questions and comments along the way, please ping in. We'd love to answer them. Otherwise, we'll keep hearing from them about some of their background and creating this wonderful content. One of the scenes I'm going to just jump back in here. One of the scenes from the series, what has been one of the scenes from this series that had the biggest impact on you when you watched the final version? So I think, you know, we talked about when you're creating it, your creative path of, you know, developing and how you thought it would look. What has been maybe a scene from this series that has impacted you after you saw the final take?
Wow. Well, there's so many, and honestly, you know, to shout out Performer School again, they bring such wonderful kids to us to work with that we feel really lucky. One of the things we do with every film that is one of my favorite parts of the creation of the films is that based on the topic, we'll say, hey, so I have a sheet of paper and I say, this film is going to be about pressure, let's say. Can you talk to me? Can you write either from your own personal experience or something that you've witnessed that deals with this idea of pressure and how it relates to you or someone you know? And it's anonymous. And once they write it down, their story, we scramble them up and we give them to another kid to read out loud. And I'm always so inspired and grateful and humbled by their transparency to share as sort of a jumping off place to build the story from. So that to me and their bravery in getting their word out is really wonderful and beautiful for me to be a part of.
Oh, I think you're muted.
Can't hear you, Ann.
Oh my gosh, the quote of 2021. That must be why they're so authentic. You know, I love to hear that really when you, as a teacher, if you're looking for video content that is addressing, you know, some of these hard to discuss topics, you will trust the content that's coming from Revealing Media Group because of its authenticity. And that makes perfect sense that you are really drawing from those experiences, and how wonderful that you were able to do that. What has been one of the most challenging parts of making these films?
Well, yeah, you know, just from a purely sort of technical thing, you know, we end up on most of these having these enormous groups of kids, right? Like, you know, like the casts on most of these are very large, you know, including extras and things. We've had 50 people on set.
We've had like 50 people. And again, I'm shouting out all of the adult actors that come and help us, all the kids' parents that we wrangle in these films sometimes, our composer, everybody that's involved. It takes a village. So I think what's challenging is dealing with all of everything at once.
Yeah, and you know, we shoot them mostly to school. Like almost all of them we shot into school, and because they're kids, we can only have them for so long. You know, these are not like big, like the length of a day that you'd have if we were making a big TV show or something.
Shorter days, 2-day shoot with a 1 day of a pickup normally.
And so we have to work really, really fast and efficiently. And man, the kids are just troopers. I'm amazed by the performances that they're able to give us.
Yeah, they want to be there. They really are excited because they've contributed. You know, they feel like they have a piece of this film, which they do, and so they're in it to win it. They're going long days. They're there for the long haul. So that's really fun. But yeah, I guess it's challenging for me because and David, because we have a small crew that we hire and all of that, but it's small. So I'm literally like shouting in my megaphone to get everybody in place for an outside scene. And I'm looking at the art direction behind them. And I'm also looking at acting, and David's looking at camera. And sometimes I'm also holding a boom. So it's just like a lot of hats, but we kind of thrive on that. Mm-hmm. So it's challenging, but totally invigorating.
Wow, that's awesome. I would love to be there for the next time you guys do a shoot.
How do you feel about holding the boom?
You get really good arms.
I'm there. I'm your girl. I'm there. I have 4 kids. I've already signed them up. They'll work. Now, thinking more about the educators as they're, you know, dealing with these topics in classroom or about to approach them, what do you envision for the educators? You know, how do you envision them using this content in their classroom or with their students when you're producing it?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, we certainly intended to spark a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, that these are conversation starters. I think they're intended to suggest ways to think about and you know, there's a way for a student, I think, to look at them, and because it's a step removed, it's happening to someone else. They can see themselves in the situation, but it's kind of safer because it's not me, it's them as they're thinking about it or talking about it.
I think, yeah, you can open the door with that. You can also have them, you know, write an essay in response to it, have open discussions between pairing in classrooms. There's a lot of different ways that this could be used.
What could the characters have done differently? Yeah. You know, what other choices could they have made? You know, these kinds of things.
That's what we hear too, is that it's a lot easier for the teachers to show your content in the classroom. So if you're talking about the pressure that the students, you know, if you're talking about your students having a lot of pressure, you're talking about the characters in the film as opposed to your own story. And so I definitely think when you said conversation starters, that is definitely what we're hearing too from our teachers, is that these are great ways to start talking about a topic, an issue, what have you. And it's not necessarily trying to attack the student or address a behavior that maybe could be seen as negative or what have you. So yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And that's how we would really encourage teachers to use these as well. As you watch through these, they're short. I think the longest might be like 8 minutes or so. And so they're great ways to, like you said, start the conversation. You know, the film that maybe we could move forward is the new film that you've created called Guilty. So this is one that I think has a lot, probably could have an entire conversation about this film. So this is just being released. In fact, they just sent me the files on Monday, I believe. So this title will be live. We're going to try to expedite this, get this live as quickly as we can, hopefully within the next week. Could you tell us a little bit about the film Guilty?
Yeah, well, I think we made this film during the pandemic in response to, in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. And, like a lot of people out there, our projects are being pushed in entertainment because of the pandemic. And so, having projects pushed that we were supposed to be making, we felt this urge to create something. And then even more, an urge to respond in support to all the racial injustices that have been happening in our country. And so Guilty came out of that.
Yeah, it was a really interesting process for me. Oh, in fact, as we're talking about all of these films, Adria actually stars in it. It's the only one of these films.
I'm not normally in these.
But she starred in it, and
our other actor, Harold Dennis,
who is actually in another one of the Kids Matter films.
We shot him outside.
Right. Yeah, we were during quarantine. We were very careful. But yeah, it really came out of this impulse of wanting to contribute to the conversation and feeling like it was so important to talk about racism and to talk about these issues.
And also from, regardless of our backgrounds and, we look and are white people, and we wanted to explore white fragility, racial bias. We wanted to make that, coming from our lens and how we can grow and be better.
Yeah, implicit bias, white privilege. I mean, it's again very contemporary in the point of view that it's taking, and also, our hope in this context is about sparking conversations, which again are very hard to have, but maybe are a little easier when we can talk about a character on a screen and not ourselves.
It's that, yeah, and so this is middle, high school, and adult, different audiences. I think a bigger audience for this one potentially.
Definitely. And Adria, just to tell you, did such a fantastic job in the film. Knowing you and seeing your portrayal, it was very interesting and very clear what an amazing actress you are. It's true. You're amazing. And so, yeah, and it was great because I know you, but I've never seen you in one of the films. So I was happy to see that. I'm like, hey, that was a really, but you're right. When you said spark a conversation, having led some other conversations, in InfoBase has a complete racial literacy portion of our products out of how we can, support the conversation that educators are having. We've heard a lot from producers, from teachers, from, really kind of our, my colleagues, how sometimes we feel apprehensive to approach a topic that we don't feel maybe we have as much expert knowledge as we think we should on something. And so we shy away from addressing it. And then is that the solution? And so I love that you are saying, hey, let's just spark a conversation. And so the film Guilty, we hope you'll be able to come back, and we'll put a link when the film is available. So hopefully for those of you watching, you'll find that helpful and can click on that and log in and view the film. But you'll find that no matter how you're looking to address the topic of racial literacy, or like you said, implicit biases, what have you, you'll find the conversation can lend itself from middle school, high school, or even, in a public library setting where you're just looking to open up the conversation. And I think that you've done that in such a, an eye-opening way, a respectful way that, I don't think anyone would feel, that you're challenging or attacking a certain aspect. So I think it's just, you've done a very great job of, again, opening up the conversation, what you guys do best, giving teachers an opportunity to open a conversation when maybe they don't feel like they are in the know of how to do that. So you really facilitated that. A couple little questions. I know we're getting short on time, but what kind of impact do you want this film, Guilty, to have on people that view it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you said that, we're not trying to like tell anybody how to think or feel, but we just want them to think about this situation and how they would react to it and talk about it, I think that's where growth really happens, is when you're brave enough to talk about how you feel about something and then talk to somebody else about that, have an open conversation, an open dialogue, and learn something from someone else that maybe you didn't know. I mean, it's very simple, but I think that when we watch things that make us think and then talk about them to other people, that's when the magic happens. That's when we can start to change and grow.
and to expose yourself to other perspectives. I think it's so important for us to get other perspectives just in our lives to help us grow and I think be more empathetic people.
Yeah. If you are an educator or a librarian and you're tuning in for this, I can't say enough how I hope you'll go check out Revealing Media Group. So just some logistics. If you are an InfoBase subscriber, Revealing Media Group content is available on our Learn 360 platform for our K through 12 teachers. The new film Guilty will also be made available in our public library setting, as we know this has the opportunity to, you know, facilitate conversations outside of just a K-12 setting. So we hope you'll log in today and check out Revealing Media Group. You can do this in our advanced search and you'll see all of their 7 films. And then we will be keeping you notified, and it'll show up in your recently added as soon as we can get Guilty out, because if you're like me, I'm sure you're wanting to check that out as well. We just, you know, we can't thank you enough for doing the work that you do, David and Adria. I know I've said this to you before, but you are a very unique producer in the K-12 space. You really take on some very, you know, in some might say challenging topics that our youth are facing, and you make them, like you said, you come from a point of empathy, and not that, you know, it's wrong and there's no right to be had. Like you said, it could be a learning experience for our children to learn how to maybe, you know, manage a situation better and how they can be better people. So I think all of your films do end with optimism and encouragement. So just thank you so much for doing what you do. Yeah, for sure. We hope to have you back. I know you'll, you know, I always love your emails when they pop in and I've made a new film. And so hopefully we can do this again.
Of course.
Fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to hold you to it. So yeah, thank you both so much. What was that?
I won't stop emailing you, Ann. Don't worry.
Okay, great. I love that. Well, thank you both so very much. Like I said, I'll put some links below here in a few moments to the other films so you can check them out. But log in today, check out Revealing Media Group. They're fantastic. So thank you both. Stay safe, stay well, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Okay,
All right, take care.
Take care.
Thank you.